Look in this scenario in which the New World disappears. New World, anything but the New World. Their countries, their people disappear, their countries. And their weapons gave abroad also disappear. Strangely and abruptly. And this changes the tides in Ukraine, as that means Russia has a better chance of winning, as that would mean if all the American aid disappeared, Ukraine would have nothing. The American gave almost billions and billions worth of aid. So they continue their advance, the Russians. With Ukraine having been relying on American weapons and American training and everything, they now start to have a problem. But luckily for them, at this point the Russians probably won't be able to take everything due to how much they've been depleted, whatever. But anyways, and so they make an advance. But this advance was so temporary, it was gone. But the Ukrainians managed to hold Russia back. Slightly. They eventually lose the coast. There's a short period of no advances, but then they continued their advance. As Ukraine is unable to push the Russians back, the Russians are strategically now headed back for Kiev, seeing how they're actually having success now. Without American weapons, Ukraine can't win. But Ukraine's a strong country, and it'd be hard for Russia to take it fully over. And it'd be hard to see Ukraine ever surrendering, but anyways, at this point. As this encirclement collapses as the Russians take it over. With them moving into western Ukraine, eventually the country falls into Russian hands in today's scenario. And I don't think Russia would fully annex this territory. Even if they did have success, if this happened, I don't see a full annexation being likely. Something like this is most likely. A border along the Dnieper, as that's defendable, but not just that, obviously. I could see some of this southern area also being annexed, for in case Russia does lose this influence they now found. And so they've annexed a big chunk of land. And this chunk of land is so big, it's incredible. And they also have a new puppet, Ukraine. And they take this advantage to annex Moldova and Belarus and the Caucasus nations. Because they can, but the rest of the nations around them, they don't, because they need to stabilize with the loss of the West. But that means Turkey has free range in Syria at this point. And Taiwan would probably fall. I could see, resistance. But the nations that would resist would be, Japan and South Korea. Maybe Britain, probably Britain, but, Britain's on the other side of the world. Well, really, it's much easier to go. They can just go straight and they'll sail right to Asia. So I guess if this was the way the world did work, chances are this isn't the borders we would have. But anyways, Germany would have a better chance. But let's just say they disappeared. Which is a bad thing for the global economy. The US is the hugest, biggest GDP. Country that would probably suffer from this would be China, but not their military. As they decide to confront Taiwan, and this confronting of Taiwan leads to a bit of a problem. The Philippines, Japan, and South Korea all join the war. Along with Australia, because they can. And there's no real threat to Australia, considering this. And I would say Britain would join, because they intervene in everyone's affairs. Because they're trying to take gold. Definitely what they're doing. With NATO being in a bit of a trouble. With China quickly and swiftly taking out Taiwan and offering peace. But the nations refuse, and Taiwan brings in their ally North Korea, moves their troops through, and swiftly they take over all major areas of South Korea than the rest of the territory. With them also landing in the Philippines and moving through the northern islands, even taking the capital. But they stop here because, Then they continue going because, Japan agrees to peace along with Australia and New Zealand. And this is a bit of a peace treaty. With China annexing Taiwan, And they decide to annex the Philippines while they're at it, because they can. Because they just won. And they want land, because they like land. And they want to secure their claim in the South China Sea. That's their new goal, I guess. Secure the South China Sea. North Korea is United Korea. But there wasn't much that could be done considering America has disappeared. China, along with the help of Pakistan and China, decide to get up to no good. As China, along with Pakistan, and they bring North Korea in, decides time to invade India. With the goal being to make a puppet really out of India. India, Pakistan, Kashmir, and some border territory in India and China what they want. But there are going to be annexations in this war. At this point, China hasn't moved into its dominating Vietnam to dominate the South China Sea idea, which it has, because, yeah, that's their idea since the US disappeared, is to do what they want, because they can. With India being brought to its knees with the resistance, with China and Pakistan thinking they will win, India makes a counteroffensive. But China manages to take this area, and over here falls. India manages to push China back from their capital. And so, India is now in a bit of a stalemate. As they want peace, but they don't want to lose land. So that's kind of a problem, because if you want peace, you kind of have to negotiate. With them pushing Pakistan back for like the 4th time, China has to send troops to push into India over here and set up a new front. As they thought they would get pretty far pretty quick, they also move up here. And they move back down towards India's capital. With a counter-offensive by India being carried out along these regions, with China basically just sending troops after troops along with India. With it being realized peace is the best way out of this situation, so they agree to destroy with India and China fully. With Russia trying to work to get these nations to rejoin their federation. With them having created a few allies along the way, with a new pact being ready to be signed, the Moscow-Beijing Treaty, with it being signed right now, with Russia joining, Pakistan joining, and North Korea joining, and the Russian puppet in India. With NATO becoming an expansionist alliance. I suppose what it already is, but anyways. With Vietnam annexed, China has control of the South China Sea, basically. And let's see how this alliance looks. Well, this is the point where Russia annexes a lot of nations, including their puppet, as they decide to join. At first, the alliance is just China and allies, and Russia. But they hope it grows. With Russia deciding to invite Iran, Iran accepts the treaty invite. And all of Central Asia, including Afghanistan, joins, with Russia making a big annexation. But this is where Everett has to decide between China and Europe for their defense. With Serbia and Montenegro deciding to unite to reform Serbia-Montenegro. And so, Serbia decides to launch its invasion of Kosovo and Bosnia at the same time, with its troops lining both the borders with tens of thousands of troops on each of their borders. With this being seen as an aggressive move by the European-led coalition, which we will see what it looks like. Africa is starting to heat up too, with Algeria and Morocco beefing over who to support. This doesn't end well for them, but yeah. But they don't start fighting yet. Now let's see who's on the European side. The world disappeared, and as you can see, the alliance includes Japan, Australia, Thailand, India, Saudi Arabia, Egypt. Just kidding. It consists of a lot of nations, including Germany, France, Morocco, Italy, Finland, Sweden, Norway, the United Kingdom. That's all for today's video. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Wild Mapper.